Morning, everybody, or, afternoon, evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. So today I am jumping back on the old 1979 C30 pickup that I drug home from my parents' place. If you caught the two videos on the revival of this truck, great. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you really should go back and check them out. Anyhow, since I brought it home, it's just been sitting here for pretty much right at 2 months at this point. A few weeks ago, I took the carburetor off, pulled it apart. It was not good inside of that carburetor. Ton of silt and debris in the bottom of the bowl. Everything was gunked up, deposits just on all kinds of stuff. The first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and rebuild the carburetor. Last time you saw it in the videos, it did not look like this. It was pretty gunky, covered in oil and everything else, but it ran and it got me home. It just didn't run great, but it definitely needs a rebuild. I'm going to go ahead, open this thing up, tear it down. Got the carburetor torn all apart. Now, I don't care who you are. I hear a lot of people, see them on forums and whatnot, really give these Quadra-Jets a bad name. And I never really have understood why. They're a great carburetor. And if you just want a bit of an indication, so this thing, if you saw the previous video on the old C30 there, sat in a field for 8 years with gas in it. It never got, drained, cleaned out, anything before it was parked. Went, fired it up on the gas that was still in the tank, and I drove it home without touching this carburetor at all. There are, metering rods and jet tubes just covered in crap. Some of them are plugged clear off from just corrosion in the tank. Everything is just corroded, plugged. You can see just all of the corrosion covering everything. Metering rods, vent tubes. Look at all the crud in the bottom of the bowl. Those jets and everything are just plugged up. All that crap sitting in there. The bottom of the accelerator pump. It honestly probably should not have run at all. And yet I drove it 250 miles like this, got it home, and it still fired up the next day with no problem. These carburetors just run. They last for a really long time. All you have to do is just kind of keep a little bit of maintenance on them, and they will run very, very well. They're very economical. They get good mileage. So, like I said, I don't know why so many people try to throw them under the bus, but they're a great carburetor. I'm going to go ahead, clean all this stuff up. I'm going to pop that kit open and make sure that it looks like it will work for this carburetor, and then it's just as simple as putting everything back together. But today it's time to get this thing up and moving again. I'm going to finish the carburetor rebuild, get it in there, finish the tune-up if I've got time. I've only got until 4:30 this afternoon, to get this thing into the dump. I've got the back loaded up with a bunch of stuff from a remodel project that I've got going on. So I got to try and get that to the dump today because they are not open tomorrow. So real quick, we're going to get that carb put back together, get it on here, get a tune-up done, get it fired up. So now it's just going to be a matter of reassembly, pretty standard. If you've done it before, you know how to do it. If you haven't, any rebuild kit comes with instructions. There are a million videos out there showing you how to rebuild one of these things. So I don't really need to do a step-by-step on this part, I don't think. I'll just put it back together. There we go, all put back together. Everything should be just fine with it. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the engine and then do the plugs, wires, cap, rotor before I try firing it up and get timing set and start tuning on this carb. Again, if you have watched part 1 and part 2 of me getting this thing back on the road, you'll know that I pulled the plugs before I drove it. Took a look at them, decided just to go ahead and run the ones that were already in there to bring it home. They weren't real bad. It had been running, a little rich on some, a little bit lean on others, and burning some oil. But they were good enough to get me here. I figured I had just as well run those ones when I drive it here before I had a chance to tune the carb up and everything, rather than putting new ones in and then fouling them out on the trip. So now I'm just going to pull them, slap new ones in. I really don't care what they look like because I know it was running like crap. So I'm just going to put in new plugs, put new wires. I'm just going to take a look at the cap and rotor. I didn't know when I headed down to get this if it had an HEI on it or not. So now I do know. If they look all right, I'll just reuse them because, if they look fine, they look fine. They're not going to help much. If not, I'll replace them. But I'm not too worried about it. I think I can just do the plugs and wires and get her tuned up and run it. That's kind of what I figured. It was running really lean on the way down here. And I could tell that from the way it was running. It just wasn't getting the fuel that it needed to run properly. So I'm sure they're all going to be that way, super leaned out. One other thing going on with this rig here is both of the exhaust manifolds are just wrecked. This one over here is cracked in 1, 2, 3 places, I believe. At least 2 that I can see right here. And the one on the other side has got 1 crack in it. And I mean cracked to where it's just basically broken off. So that's something I will have to address eventually. I'm not going to do it right now. The reason being that the plans for this truck have actually changed quite a bit. Initially, I went and got this from the old man with the intention of just driving it for, I was kind of estimating a year or 2, just when I needed a truck to haul something, which isn't very often. And I was just going to use it until I got my project truck done, which I haven't even started yet. That will be in the future on this channel. It's actually going to be a lot of fun and kind of a cool one-off custom build. But anyhow, that was the initial plan, was just drive this for a couple years, get it running good for Dad, and just hand it back to him so that he could put it back to work around the farm and whatnot. Well, something I really didn't tell you guys about was Dad is a Squarebody Chevy fanatic. He loves them. He's owned, well, currently, in addition to this one, he owns 2 other ones. And up until a year or so ago, he had what was kind of his baby. It was an 87 half-ton short box 4-wheel drive in incredibly good condition. I mean, not rusted out. The body was straight. Had a TBI 350 in it. Ran really good. And he kept it in the garage, surprisingly. The only vehicle I've ever known of his to be kept in the garage. And it was just his going to town rig. Didn't get a lot of miles put on it. And a year or so ago, my mom had to use it because her car was broken down, so she was driving it. And somebody on the highway, literally a mile from their house, wasn't paying attention as she was making a right-hand turn and hit her doing what had to be pretty close to highway speed from behind, and managed to hit her on the right-hand side even though she was turning right. She never saw it coming, and luckily, because it was an old Square, she survived it just fine. She got some bumps and bruises, but she was okay, luckily. The truck, though, was completely destroyed. The entire right side was just bashed into the frame. The frame was bent. There's not a whole lot left of it. So, of course, insurance company totaled it out. And it really, I mean, my mom was crazy upset because she knew how much Dad loved that truck, even though it wasn't her fault. And he is still pretty upset about it because he loved that truck. So when I drug this up here a couple weeks after I got it here, my mom gave me a call and said, you know what, we're going to do something special with that old truck because it is in such good shape. I mean, it's a great pickup. Dad bought it just for the body. He was always going to swap it onto another frame with 4-wheel drive. But me and my mom talked, and this thing is going to get a full restoration on the body and the interior and make that all, I mean, frame off. Make it look brand new, like it just rolled off the factory floor. And then I am going to upgrade this power plant. I'm going to throw a 6-liter LS in it, 4L80, maybe a 6.2 with the 6L80. That would be really cool if I can come up with one for the right price. But either way, it's going to get an LS, updated power plant, drivetrain. Just turn it into a super great runner that my dad can park in the garage again, use it for running to town, not use it as a farm rig, and just have another truck that he can fall in love with and use that'll last him for forever. And then on top of that, being a really cool truck for Dad to have, I will also be freeing up this engine to go back in the pickup that it was in originally, which is a 77 half-ton 4-wheel drive long box that Dad still has sitting on the place. it is in pretty rough shape. It was used as a farm truck for quite a while, so the body is in pretty rough shape. It's getting pretty rusted out in places. Bed's kind of beat up on it. Interior needs redone, but it's still a solid base. And since I have all the factory numbers matching pieces to it, I'm going to do a full factory original restoration on it. And I don't know. I think I'm going to try and talk Dad out of it, since he's going to have this to drive. And I don't know what I'll do with it, if I will, keep it, or, sell it once I get it fixed up. I haven't decided yet, and that's if I can talk him out of it. He's owned that since it was practically new. I bet he bought that thing in like 85, 86. So it wasn't a very old truck. But that's the plan for everything. So this is going to be a really cool truck when I'm done with it. Luckily, my dad doesn't use YouTube. He doesn't even know how to get on it, I don't think. So he'll never see this. So if any of you out there know my old man, I know there's a few of my old friends from growing up that have checked these videos out. Don't tell my dad that that's the plan for this. It's going to be the worst kept secret in the world in the end, because invariably he's going to see it in some stage of restoration. But I want to keep it a secret from him as long as I can, and really surprise him with it as a gift when I get it done. So, all right, new plugs in all the way around. I'm going to throw some wires on it, get the carb in here, and we'll fire it up and get it tuned. Alright, well, here is the moment of truth. I've got the carb back on, new plugs and wires. I pulled the cap off. There was just a little bit of carbon buildup in there, not very much at all, so I just cleaned it off with a wire brush real quick. Cleaned up the rotor. I've plugged all the vacuum ports except for the one connected to my gauge. Vacuum advance is disconnected, and I filled the bowl up with some fuel just to make sure I can get it primed and fired up. So I'm going to start it, make sure that it'll idle, let it do that till it gets up to temp, and then we will set timing, tune the carb, and that should be about it. Should be pretty simple. Alright, here we go. Well, that was easy. It's running pretty darn smooth. It's a little low on vacuum, but it's still cold. So it's still cold, but it's sitting at about 9 degrees of timing right now, which might be why we're just a hint low on vacuum. I'll bring that up to, like I said, I'll bring it up to 12. And then we'll start fiddling with the carb once we're at temp. Now I just got to wait for it to get the temperature. Well, I'm going to call that operating temperature. Choke is open. I'm going to back that idle down a little bit and then check timing and adjust that. You can definitely hear all of those manifold leaks. And whatever that dang squeaking noise is, it's terrible. It's better than it was on the trip down here, but it's definitely annoying. I'm betting it's water pump. I've got my timing set just shy of 12 degrees. I'm pulling pretty decent vacuum. My idle speed is set. I'm just going to
run these mixture screws in until it loses a little bit of vacuum, and then back them back out. Jump back and forth between the two until it finds its happy spot.
Alright, so I've got timing set and holding right at about 11 degrees. That's close enough for me. It seems happy with it. I'm pulling about 18 inches of vacuum on the manifold, and that's really good, actually. I mean, you know, between 15 and 20 on one of these older engines, I'm happy with that. Mixture seems good. It snaps right off of the throttle just fine, and settles right back into the exact same spot on everything. So I'm going to call that good. I'm going to hook up my vacuum advance and plug this other port that I've been using for my vacuum gauge, and throw the air cleaner on it, double check my fluids, and we'll get ready to run it into town. I've got a little bit of time to spare to make it into the dump before they close. Once again, hard to beat an old small block Chevy. You know, this thing sat in a field for quite a while. Mice got into it. The carburetor was absolutely gunked out when I got it here and opened it up. But a quick clean and a few new parts on a carb rebuild, plugs and wires. I mean, really not much more than that, and it sits there. It idles great. I'm sure it'll run just fine once I get it out on the road. And yeah, this is going to be a great little pickup for me for a little while till I get something else a little bit better set up for me. And then I can start the restoration on this guy and get him ready for, you know, a lifetime of getting my dad around. My dad's going to be really happy with this. I'm excited to do that for him. All right, well, here we go. I'm ready for another trip in the old C30. I just aired up one of the tires. I still have that one hanging out all by itself on that corner. Still all the old, crappy, not smart to run on tires that I had when I brought it home. But you know what? They've made it this far. Surely they'll make it the 4 or 5 miles over to the dump and back, right? The fact that it's 90 degrees isn't going to change anything. I guess we'll see what happens. So I'm just down the hill from my house, and the last stop sign I pulled up to, it started stumbling a bit and kind of running a touch rough. So I'm going to peek under the hood and see if I can spot what's going on. Oh. Well, that's not good. I'm surprised I didn't just burn the whole truck down. I pulled into this little gas station here close to the house because I needed to throw a few gallons on anyway, and crawled under the hood to see what was going on. And when I was doing stuff under the hood earlier, I must have moved a few things around, and this fell up against the exhaust manifold melted clear through it. I'm surprised that that didn't just catch fire on me. So I've bypassed it for the moment just to get back home. I don't want to drive clear out to the dump without that in there, because I'm still worried about there being, I mean, that's the one I drove home on. There's nothing in there. It is still completely clean, but I'm still worried about stuff getting dislodged out of that tank. So I threw a couple gallons on. I'm going to go ahead and take it back home, and I'll just park it, and I'm not going to make it to the dump today. I was barely going to make it as it was, so now with this setback, I'm done for the day. We'll be all right. Maybe I'll get some tires on it before I make the trek out to the dump. Maybe that's the universe's way of telling me, hey, stupid, don't drive out there in 96-degree weather on that tire, because you'll be stranded, and no one's going to have a 16.5 tire on hand today. It's just not going to happen. So I'd be stuck on the side of the road, leaving it there. It was probably not smart to make this attempt, and the truck told me so. It decided, you know what, I'm going to stop you right here before you get too stupid. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please share with your friends. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I've got some other stuff in the works, and I would really like for you guys to be able to tune in and check it out. Set up your notifications so that when I put a new video up, you guys can see it. And yeah, again, really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. I'm excited to start the restoration and get this back up and running and give it to my dad. It's going to take some time. We're going to be working it, on a budget, trying to get this done. But I can't wait to see the look on my dad's face when I have this all restored up and I give it back to him, and it gets to just be his daily driver.